Hey Dream Chasers, it's JC, and today I want to talk about that goddamn filter. You know the one. It's the filter that makes you look like a dude or a girl. I'm not gonna lie, as a trans-masculine person, seeing all these cis women with like full beards is making me jealous as hell. I want to be clear, I'm not against the filter at all. I think it's fun. I think it's really cool for people to be able to explore their gender and their gender expression and play around with that. I remember a few years ago I used a similar filter and I really liked how my face looked, and it kind of helped me figure out some stuff for myself. So I think overall, anything that lets you kind of play around with your gender expression and explore how you look and your style is a good thing. But something about being a little drunk at 1 a.m. on a Friday, scrolling through Twitter and seeing all these gender swap pictures, it was just kind of messing with my self-image and my dysphoria. So I caved and I downloaded Snapchat to mess with the filters. And as a non-binary person, I felt really uncomfortable just staring into this like weird contorted features that were supposed to be the ideal like epitome of femininity or masculinity, and it just felt so awkward and wrong to see it on my face. And neither of them really looked like me, and it was just a lot to really kind of process emotionally and, you know, see these faces that don't belong to me, and they're performing gender in this like ideal perfect way that I never will or want to do, and it was just super weird. But instead of really examining those feelings and dealing with them, I just made a shit post and then had another shot of rum. But this whole thing got me really thinking about what is it that makes a face masculine or feminine? This is a really complicated question for me because on one hand, I don't think there's any wrong or right way to be masculine or feminine. And I think the idea that men have to fit a certain standard and women have to fit a certain standard and that everybody has to fall strictly within the binary is just, I don't know, tired and rigid and boring, and I don't like it. But as a trans-masculine person, I do want to look more masculine than I do, which means I have to really think about what does masculinity look like? Obviously, not everything about my appearance is going to change in testosterone, but I'm kind of hoping that I get a little bit of facial hair and that I get more of that M-shaped hairline and just some things that kind of will cue people to not call me ma'am. And as an artist, I think it's really useful to be able to get your characters to read the way that you want them to so that people can look at them and kind of know what you were going for. And I struggle with it a little bit, and I know I'm not alone because I hear a lot of artists say, oh, I can't draw men, I'm really bad at it. Every time I draw guys, they look too pretty. So not everybody really knows how to draw very masculine features, or in some cases very feminine features. And so it kind of does help to learn those rules so you can kind of push your art a little bit more to have some of that stuff. So I think that really brings us to the question, what makes a face look masculine or feminine? So I'm gonna Google that because that's literally how I answer every question I have in my life. So let's do that now. Alright, so the first thing that comes up is a clinic. I bet this is a plastic surgeon. So, 5 facial features that can make you look masculine. Men have broad noses, the bridge can be crooked, have slight indentation. They're showing us these illustrations. This is actually helpful since we're talking about this for our purposes from the art angle to see these drawings. Eyebrows. Wow, I think this is very exaggerated. Clearly they're saying that men's eyebrows are thicker, women's eyebrows are thinner. Female eyes are slightly larger and appeal more open. What? This isn't true of everybody. I know plenty of women who have this kind of a shape to their face. Like, to me, this is a very Barbie doll sort of slope that's not quite realistic. Men, by nature, have thinner, longer lips, while women have lush, plumper lips. Who? What women? What men? This feels very white. I imagine a lot of the stuff we're gonna find today are gonna be based on very Eurocentric standards of beauty. The male lips are further from the nose? Oh, because of their fullness. Okay. Chin. Wow. This is drastic. I don't think that this is actually this drastic in real life. I think this is exaggerated for the drawing. Alright, so that was our rundown about what makes someone look masculine. Let's search out what makes a face feminine. 7 features of a feminine face. Now this is a plastic surgeon for sure. Okay. Male foreheads are wider and higher. Males have a bony ridge running across the forehead above the eyes. Females have a smooth forehead. Okay. Male eyebrows possess a straighter shape. Yeah, that's the other one said too, whereas female eyebrows are more arched. Males possess lower eyebrows than females. Yeah, the other one said that too. Male eyelids appear more closed, providing a narrower appearance. What? Are guys just walking around like, hey. Like, what is this thing that, like, women's eyes are more open? I don't know why. This feels inaccurate to me. Males have wider, longer noses. Females have more narrow and shorter. Yeah, again, that sounds very white. Males have arched or straight nose bridges, where females are more concave in profile. I know a lot of women with, like, very strong noses. I don't know. I think that this is, like, from the, you know, a plastic surgeon kind of standpoint. Cheeks. I don't think the other one talked about cheeks. Males have flatter cheekbones, as where females possess more prominent cheekbones. Really? I've never heard that. Females have more fat in their face, giving their cheeks a rounder, fuller look. I have heard that because I've heard that one of the things that changes when you're on hormones is that the fat in your face will literally change and move around. Lips. Male lips are thinner, especially the top lip. Distance between the nose is usually longer. Yeah, the other one said that too. All right, jawline and chin. Strong jaw and chin are masculine features. However, square jawlines are currently in. Many of the world's most gorgeous women possess square jawlines. That's true. So this is funny. They're saying a strong jaw is more masculine, but square jawlines are in for women. So is the implication that more men have a square jawline and that's what makes them masculine, or that we idealize it in men and not in women? But right now it's trendy, so it's okay. Like, this seems like not very science-based to me, but like opinion-based. Keep in mind, it is your overall facial appearance which matters. Therefore, the more of these ideas you apply, the more feminine the face will appear. Okay, so that's an interesting point, because I think it's something we can keep in mind with art, is that you can mix and match these features a little bit. It's just that if more of them maybe skew masculine, you're gonna have a character that reads male, versus if more of them skew feminine. There's maybe some logic here. Alright, so let's see if we can apply what we learned about what makes a face masculine versus what makes a face feminine, and draw a male face and a female face and see how they turn out. So I'm just gonna start with a basic kind of structure, and then I'm just gonna kind of rough in. So usually typical faces, and this is all stuff that I talked about in my video of like how we talk about features and proportions and stuff, and this whole video kind of ties in with that, that we tend to describe like the right way to draw something based on, you know, these ideal standards of beauty and what people should look like, but they're not really accurate. So keep in mind, I'm gonna state these rules in like a very blanket way, and we're kind of, hopefully by the end of this video, gonna subvert some of them, but I'm gonna follow these basic rules on how to draw a face. So we have eyes are about 1 eye width apart, and the whole head is about 5 eye widths wide. You can vary this to make a face more interesting, but we're going with plain, boring, standard. So I have that about halfway between the eye line and the chin here. That's where my nose is gonna go, and about halfway between that is where the mouth is gonna go. So we are going to attempt to draw a masculine face. All right, so the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna make those sleepy half-closed eyes, because for some reason women's eyes are very alert and open, and men's are not. He just can't stay awake. He's just like, what? And then we're gonna make eyebrows that are very close to those eyes, and they're going to be kind of squared off and flat instead of arched, and they're going to be bushy as hell. So noses. What was the one thing? So males have wider, longer noses. We are going to actually make this nose a little bit past that line, that guideline that I made, just to kind of remember to exaggerate that it's long. We're gonna kind of exaggerate that there's a line here because we have like a more drastic angle for that brow, or that, I don't know what you call it, the bridge, whatever. And we're gonna have some distance between the nose and the top lip, and this top lip is gonna be, wow, he looks really depressed. He looks really unhappy. Yeah, there we go. The corner of his mouth up a little bit. I think these nostrils too are looking like pointed down too much, so we'll get kind of a more straight on view. There we go. Alright, now he doesn't look so depressed and angry. That'd be more of like maybe a comment on toxic masculinity, I don't know. And okay, so the cheekbones are flatter, not very prominent, according to the one thing we read. And the cheeks are not gonna be very wide or full. I'm gonna make the jaw a little longer so that it looks bigger. I don't know the guideline for what makes ears masculine or feminine, but I am going with those kind of quote rules where the top of the ear lines up with the eye, like around the bottom of the brow, and the bottom of the ear lines up around the nose. Forehead, is that what we talked about? Let me go back to our references. The forehead for males is wider and higher. Okay, so we have wide forehead. And then this isn't on any of these lists here, but I do know that men typically have a little bit more of like an M shape, like to their hairline. There's our police sketch of a man. All right, so we'll make a new layer. This time we're gonna draw a lady. These eyes have to be very big and alert. So we're gonna draw big open eyes. We're gonna make them look open by leaving a little more space under the bottom here. The eyebrows will be higher and thinner and arched. And I know that's something people talk about with makeup is getting a good arch. So, you know, I don't know if that's something that like is inherently feminine or we just kind of decided it is. I don't know. All right, and then the nose is going to be shorter and smaller, not as wide. And the lips are gonna appear closer to the nose and fuller. So make that top lip a lot fuller. You could tell I'm more comfortable drawing women because this is already looking better. All right, and then we're gonna do wider cheekbones and just fuller cheeks. So we're gonna give this character kind of a full cheeks and bring down the chin to kind of a thinner point. This angle is going to be less drastic than it was for the other face. And according to this, women have smaller foreheads that are more narrow. So we're going to do that. And I don't know, we're just going to draw some hair. All right, so there is our generic man and our generic woman that we drew based on those descriptions. And honestly, I mean, I actually think they worked. I think these do kind of read as a man and a woman. You can kind of look at them and quickly get that from it. That said, I think they're kind of boring characters. I don't think they're really that interesting. I think they're forgettable faces. God, I also think both of their noses are too long. That's like a me problem, but whatever. I think that those tips were helpful in having a good starting point for how to get a masculine or a feminine face. But the problem with this, I think, is that it's a little bit boring. So I think the trick is to now learn how to break these rules. And I think a really good way to do that is we're going to look at some faces of real humans that break these rules and see what we can kind of learn from them and play around with that. But before we start that whole thing, I want to talk a little bit about coding. Because if you notice, I instinctively added some eyelashes here. There was nothing in our notes about longer eyelashes on women. Plenty of men have long eyelashes. I added this little cleft here on the chin. And those are things that, in my opinion, are more about coding than kind of reality. And a lot of art is about symbols and coding. So what I mean by that, we're going to do something very similar to what we just did, but we're going to do it with like a smiley face sort of a thing. So we're just going to draw this little character here. We're going to give them circle eyes and just like a very generic mouth. And so we can look at this and just see the very basic idea, right? A smiley face, it's a person. But there are ways that we can kind of gender this without getting a lot of detail. We are going to code them, male and female. So the easy way to do that, to code a character female, it's done all the time. Just add those little eyelashes. There you go. That's a girl now. Another thing you can do is add big full lips. And that is very clearly, this is a feminine character, just from those little things. And I think, unfortunately, we kind of default everything to male, so you don't have to do anything to this to make it male, but you can. One thing that I would consider doing is giving this little silly smiley face a cleft in the chin. That'll do it. A little mustache. Now suddenly this is even more masculine, right? You have a very masculine character. You know, and you can accessorize them. You can add a little hat, or you can add a little bow. And now you have coded these characters to be very masculine and feminine, even though they're very, very simple. This looks super weird. I might even just do this, just give him a little beard or something. And now suddenly this character is very male and this character is very female, even though they're basically the same exact shape. This is really based on just our ideas about expressing gender, and that's why you can have the same exact face shape, but this one is coded feminine, this one's coded male. As where these are very distinctly different face shapes and don't rely as much on coding, but actual features that we recognize. But let's break some stereotypes, because I think that is a lot more fun. Alright, so we talked a lot about the rules and like the very stereotypical features of men and women, but I wanted to talk about faces that kind of go outside of those standards and those norms and still read as very feminine and very masculine. So I have some celebrities and some models that I googled, and these are all people who kind of break some of those norms about the features we just learned about. And I want to use them as references to do a couple of studies to draw some faces that don't exactly fit the rules and still look really feminine and really masculine and actually look a lot more interesting. So on the left here, I have a bunch of women, and on the right, a bunch of men, and I kind of broke these down into sections. So this top part here, these are all people who have kind of different jaw lines than what we learned about. So these are women with very square, broad jaws who are very pretty and very feminine, but happen to have kind of more what would be considered masculine jaw lines. As where these are men who have sort of thinner and less pronounced jaw lines, but still look like dudes. And then here we have some women who have thin lips and some men who have fuller lips. Some women who have very thick eyebrows and are still very pretty. And in fact, I think the eyebrow thing is weird because right now it's actually in for women to have bigger eyebrows. So, oh yeah, and we gotta go with Frida, right? I had to include Frida. It's considered trendy to have very pronounced eyebrows, even as a woman now, so that rule is a little odd. And then I included some guys who have very, very thin eyebrows. And then lastly, I wanted to include some women who had bigger foreheads and kind of a different hairline than what's considered, you know, that perfect feminine hairline. Usually that M-shaped hairline is considered more masculine, but it looks lovely on Blake Lively. And then some guys with some kind of shorter foreheads. And then this guy here has kind of a very straight hairline, and it doesn't have that sort of M hairline. So clearly all of these things can diverge quite a bit from those rules. So like I said, I'm gonna just do a couple of studies and draw a couple of faces sort of based on some of these features and just kind of see what we can learn and what we can play around with and what interesting characters we can come up with instead of our really boring couple here. Because God, these guys are boring. So let's dive in and do that. Wow, okay, so I think I solved the same face conundrum. Everybody always talks about trying to get away from same face, where you draw all your characters and they all look the same. And this is the most, I think, interesting, unique set of characters I've ever drawn, ever. So that was a really cool unintended side effect of this experiment. I really dig it. So yeah, let's break down this page here. So the first set of characters here is the very stereotypical feminine face and masculine face based on those rules that we looked up earlier, and they're pretty generic characters. I think this actually looks like pretty much every female character I've ever drawn. This set here is, I drew a lot of those feminine features on this character, except the jaw I made a lot more square and pronounced and kind of went with the masculine description of a jaw. on a feminine face otherwise. And then I reversed it here where I drew these kind of masculine features of like the low eyebrows and the longer, wider nose and the thinner lips, but there's this very thin kind of jawline that's not very pronounced. And I think these characters are actually really attractive and cool looking. Moving on here, I did the same thing where I kind of stuck to the stereotypical features except for the lips. So I gave this character a very soft feminine kind of nose and the big eyes and the thin arched eyebrows and the very slender jawline, but kind of thinner lips. And this character has a lot of masculine features, but thicker lips. And I think overall this character still looks very masculine. And same for her. She looks very feminine and soft, but she has thin lips. And I think this also worked very well. The focus was eyebrows, so I gave this character on the left very thick, kind of strong eyebrows. I gave this character very thin, wispy eyebrows, and added a little arch to them. And then down here, I focused on hairline. So this character has kind of a bigger, wider forehead with sort of an M-shaped hairline, which is kind of a more masculine hairline. I think I could have made his hairline a little thinner, his forehead a little thinner, but I made the forehead short. I gave him a very, straight kind of hairline. I didn't really pronounce this sort of receding part that a lot of guys get. And I think this character also looks very masculine. And then this last drawing here, I kind of changed it up a little bit more. So I made this character on the left here have a little bit of a more square jaw, maybe not as pronounced as up here, kind of thicker eyebrows, not quite as pronounced as up here, a sort of longer, broader nose, not super thin lips, but a little bit thin, but she has pretty hair and pretty eyelashes, and she still has kind of a softness to her look. And then this character, I gave him a little bit of a weaker jawline, kind of like what we see up here, a little bit thicker lips, not quite as thick as these, but I kind of played with those features a little bit. I went with the very wide open eyes and gave him kind of big eyes, and I think the result is actually that he just looks very young and kind of innocent. But I think these characters still read as this is a feminine character, this is a masculine character, a little bit maybe leaning towards androgynous, but still clearly I think with the facial hair, this character reads as masculine. The jewelry and the hair and the makeup, this character reads as feminine. So I think that all of these characters have maybe little hints of kind of androgynous features, but I think they kind of lean in a direction. And that said, I want to point out that technically any of these characters here could be non-binary. I think a lot of people think that non-binary people are always going to be very androgynous. That's just not true. There are non-binary people that look all kinds of ways. Androgyny and non-binary are not the same thing. They can be, and some non-binary people choose to present very androgynous, but just keep that in mind that that's not necessarily something that you can achieve in art. There's no non-binary look. If you make a non-binary character, you might have to tell people like this character is non-binary because there isn't one particular look for that. Anyway, I think this was a really cool experiment and I'm glad that I did it. I learned a lot about art and how to draw more interesting faces, and I actually feel a lot better about just my hang-ups with like those ideals of masculinity and femininity and beauty, and I feel like a lot of it doesn't matter. And seeing all these really unique, cool, interesting faces that I drew and knowing that they kind of break the mold, that just feels really good and affirming, so I'm glad I did it. If any of you guys want to also try this out and draw some faces with kind of different features and experiment with that stuff, I would love to see your work. Please share it in the comments. And if you have any tips on how to draw more interesting faces and get away from same face, I know that's a huge thing for artists. I'd love to hear your tips on that as well. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you guys learned as much as I did and found this interesting. And until next time, chase your dreams. Peace. Thank you so much for watching. If you're new to the channel and you like this video, please subscribe for more art videos, more LGBT stuff, and more videos of Riley like this one. That's the real reason to subscribe. I'm bribing you with my dog.